Imagine if like a leader got a group together. I'm not saying this has ever happened, but if a leader got a group together and then the leader never showed up.
Welcome to the D3 Discipleship Podcast, a podcast about the language and tools that help to create a culture of intentional discipleship in your church. We are excited that you're joining us today and hope that you enjoy what you hear.
Well, hey everyone, and welcome back to the D3 Discipleship Podcast. My name is Ray, and alongside me is my co-host, Katie Ketzer.
Good morning.
How are
everybody. I'm good.
Good.
I think I'm better than you are this morning.
Yes, we have had all kinds of technical fun this morning, memory cards and such.
I'm just plugging away. Just
didn't want to work. Yeah.
Just working.
Katie had an extra 30 minutes to work on stuff. So, yeah, but we're ready to roll today.
Yeah. And it's mid-fall. I'm so excited. I've been obsessed with Starbucks apple crisp oat milk macchiatos.
Whoa.
So much to say, but
that is a lot.
So delicious.
Yeah.
And I've never been one of those people that like have to go get coffee every morning. But this week I've done it like maybe 3 times. Ooh. To the point where I had to switch up coffee shops because I was like, if I go back, she's going to see me again and she's going to be like, this girl's got a problem.
Was it the witch that you ran into last week?
No. I've tried to avoid that one.
Yeah.
Not only for the witch, but it's also really slow and busy.
Yeah.
And I found that the one nearest my house is not as busy because it's kind of tucked away.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And so I like going to that one, but she for sure would recognize me.
Gotcha.
And I can't have that.
Yeah. Well, there's a Dutch Brothers that just opened around the corner too. Been spending way too much time there. And if they had a place to like sit, which they don't, right? They're just a little drive-through place. If they had a place to sit, that'd be my new office. Like, that's where I'd be.
Everyone talks about Dutch Brothers. I don't know if I've had it once in Colorado, and well, to be fair, I wasn't really a coffee drinker at that point. Okay. Can't say that I'm really a huge coffee drinker, like enough to know differences.
Gotcha.
Like, this is good, this is bad. So, but I didn't see anything special.
Well, they got a new one called Sweater Weather, and it's
a drink.
Yes. Oh, it's fall in a cup. It's amazing.
Well, so is apple crisp oat milk macchiato.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a white chocolate chai with cinnamon and nutmeg.
Okay.
And you can feel the sweater as you're drinking it. Like, it just feels like fall.
I'll have to try it. But I don't usually go for the white chocolate stuff. Kind of weird.
That's right. Well, you guys are definitely here for your coffee talk this morning, right? That's why you're here. No, so maybe you're here for the sake of growing and your D3 and your coaching and equipping. So the purpose of this podcast is to coach and equip you to lead your best in discipleship. And I feel like Katie and I could have another 30-minute conversation about coffee. But we're going to jump in this morning. And kind of the idea behind today is we've had a couple different questions, Katie, about the D3 Covenant. And so even as we talked about it last week, and then we had a D3 network event, had 4 different churches represented who came to Kansas City from as far as North Carolina, which was pretty cool. Whoa. And one of the big questions in that was the covenant and how to use the covenant and different things like that. So I thought that'd be helpful for us to jump into today.
Yeah.
And sound good?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
I'm excited to learn.
Woohoo. All right.
Okay, so I guess I will ask you all the questions because I feel like you have more answers than I would on this one. So
you've got the wisdom hidden in there.
You're the expert in the room.
You just don't let it.
Okay,
but you got the wisdom. I'm just saying. All right.
Okay, so broad topic.
Yes.
What is the importance of this covenant? Why do we do it?
Yeah. So there's a couple different reasons that we do the covenant. Okay. So the first one would be just from a biblical standpoint and the significance of covenant. So we'll talk about that in a second. The second thing is accountability to your group. So this gives you an opportunity to give the expectations up front to your group. And we kind of talked about this last week in the Q&A, but this gives you an opportunity to set expectation before anybody jumps in, and then they're signing their name to it. So it's kind of like this, hey, I recognize that you told me this, right? Mm-hmm. Like we use a phrase a lot at New City, like, what did you hear me say? This is ultimately the greatest place to say that before you jump into discipleship. Like, here we read through these things. What did you hear me say? Are you good with that? If you are, cool, sign this, right?
Yeah.
And so, but the biblical covenant standpoint is that, a covenant was very significant, especially in the Old Testament. You see multiple covenants that were made between the Lord and an individual or between just individuals themselves. And so in that, there used to be the promise of the gentleman's handshake, right? Like, hey, we're going to shake hands on this and it's as good as gold.
Yeah.
Back in the Old Testament, they would do different covenant, even ceremonies and different things like that. And there's even this odd thing where they would hold each other's thigh, which I'm glad we don't do that anymore, right? And so there's all these ways that covenants were made in the Old Testament. And really the idea behind a covenant, and the other piece that I just completely missed is the idea of marriage, right? The marriage covenant. So it's this idea that each of us are establishing and giving something to this relationship, but also that we're going to promise these things to one another. So ultimately, as we're signing this covenant with the people in our group, we're saying, I'm going to give to you the things that you see on that paper, but also you're going to step into the things that we're going to be doing.
So we know why we're doing this covenant.
Yep.
So let's talk about when to do it.
Yeah. So I would say earlier in the group, the better. But also, we've talked about before, there's going to be maybe one or two groups there on the front end where you're just hanging out, getting to know each other. Mm-hmm. You're not even doing stories yet. You're just hanging out. And so I would say maybe that first, before you start stories, you want to talk about the covenant.
Yeah.
Right. So I would say if you do, let's say you do 3 get to know you type things, right? Everybody goes to coffee. Everybody comes to the house and watches a football game, whatever that looks like. And then at some point, there's going to have to be a time where you can sit down before you start this whole shindig and really lay out, here's the expectation. And so I think that's when you would bring the covenant out. And we're going to read through it here in a minute, and it'll kind of bring some clarity to what you're asking of them. But you're going to read through that. And then that may also be a place that if you feel comfortable, you can draw out and teach the pathway. Like, this is what the next 8 to 12 months is going to look like, right? Yeah. And so you can draw that out for everybody. Or we have, on the website, we have a video of me teaching through it. And it's like, you could just play that. So this is the D3 pathway. This is what we're going to be walking through, right? And so, but it gives you an opportunity on the front end to, again, set the expectation and let them know this is where we're headed in the next little bit.
Yeah. So do you do this? You do this in a group, in the group?
Yes.
Because in the past, I think, well, I came in late, so I don't know. They just had me read over it and say, okay, if you have any questions, let us know. But
gotcha.
Also,
yeah,
you want to join here.
So that's a great point. I think you could do it either way, right? Like if you met with individuals and had each of them sign it, I think it's important to know or let the group know that hey, everybody did this. Mm-hmm. So one person's on well, she had me sign this covenant, but you didn't have to. What in the world?
Oh.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But to put it in the group context, it's everybody's reading it together. We're working through it together. Questions are being asked and different things like that. And it gives you an opportunity to kind of say, hey, what do you guys think?
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's good because just reading it together, making sure it's crystal clear.
Right.
What did everybody hear?
Yeah.
What'd you hear in this?
Exactly. Yeah.
And if it differs from person to person, because people hear things differently, you can clarify as it is, answer questions. Mm-hmm. The only question I have would be what if someone kind of not raises a stink, but
maybe
opposes
it's happened.
Or strongly, in the group, would that affect the other people?
Sure.
But if it does, again, maybe they're not supposed to be there.
Yeah,
ultimately.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think I told our D3 network churches that were here this past week a little bit about this. I think this is your first filter. Mm-hmm. Of if they're not willing to submit to this, you're really going to have a hard time with the rest of your D group.
And you'll see their attitude towards it.
And you'll see their attitude toward it.
And their want to in the process.
Yes. And a little bit of their even humility of okay, you're asking me to do these things. Ultimately, if they're not signing it or not wanting to sign it, they're going, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
I don't want to do those things you're asking me to do. Mm-hmm. It's ooh, well, that'll be real fun when we're talking about the Lord asking you to do something and you're not wanting to do it. So there's that. Yeah. So I think this is a great first, for lack of a better word, line of defense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about what is in the covenant. If you're watching, we have it in our hands.
We do.
And if you're not watching, you can find it on...
You can find it on the website. It's under resources. So it's on the resource tool page, the last page, I guess you could say. And then it's under starting your group. So there's phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4 headings. But then there's also starting your group on the resource page. It's second one down.
What if you fail to have them sign it? I feel like it's kind of common knowledge to have this done, but new people walking into it.
Totally.
What are the issues of not having this signed? Or is it like a requirement for?
I mean, ideally, we want every group to do it, right? And I would say that's even why we're giving it time today. Is like, hey, here's why we want you to do this. Here's we have several groups that are starting right now, even in this fall season, and I think our discipling campus leaders do a great job of saying, hey, here's what you need to start, and kind of giving that to folks as they hear that groups are starting. But yeah, so this is on the website for you to grab. If you fail, like if you've already started and you haven't had anybody sign it, it might be something to go back to. But if you feel like, man, I feel like people are receptive to what I'm asking them to do. I think the big piece of this is that accountability, right? Coming back to it and saying, hey, we kind of gave you this on the front end, let you know, and then you didn't do it, So, yeah, that's kind of how I feel about some of those conversations, it's like, bleh. So, yeah, but that's kind of, I think, what might be the recommendation there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, in this covenant, it kind of talks about what discipleship is.
Yeah, so the very first page gives kind of just a definition. It gives Matthew 28:19, the verse that we love so much about discipleship. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. But then there's the next part that honestly, I feel like we need to add is teaching them what I have taught you, right? That's what Jesus commands his disciples. And so there's this part that we always love to talk about, like go and make disciples. Let's do it. Yes. But then there's that second part of teaching them what he had taught his disciples. Like that was his mandate that he gave. And ultimately we always love to say, he said, go and make disciples, but then we never talk about the two qualifications there. Well, go baptize folks and go teach some folks. So, but in that, there's also some clarity here of just kind of honestly, just a blunt conversation, a blunt, what's this called? A paragraph of like, hey, discipleship's not going to be easy. Like this is going to take some time and effort, and this is not your city group or your, low invite, low challenge type group. Yeah. Like this is going to be a high invite group.
There are expectations, and they are,
exactly.
I don't know how to describe them. Not deep expectations, but
they have a challenge to them.
Challenging expectations, or more serious expectations of you.
We're going to push you in discipleship. Yeah.
I'm trying to find the right word.
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
So the next page, it has the disciple making commitment, and there are 4 acknowledgments.
Yes.
That they're signing to.
Yeah, and these are again what you're committing to, right? So the next part is really kind of where the things you're gonna learn and what we hope to see as far as transformation in your life. But these first 4 are like letting you know that this is what the group's going to look like, really. Mm-hmm. And so, you want me to read that first one? So I acknowledge that disciple making is a pathway that will require the way I think and what I believe and how I serve to be transparent to our D group. I commit to be open, honest, and vulnerable. And we've talked about that a lot on the podcast, like open, honest, and vulnerable in your group. We don't want you to come in and not say a word. Like we're asking you to be involved in the group. That's ultimately what that one's saying. Yeah.
Number 2 says, I acknowledge that there is much to learn before I can disciple others, and my attendance at regularly scheduled D group meetings is imperative.
Yes.
I commit to make our D group a priority and rhythm in my schedule for a period of the next several months. Though our timeline is dependent on multiple variables, this group will be a minimum of 6 months together.
Yes. Which I think has been changed to 8. Yeah. Like I would say 8.
Yeah.
But which again, another edit that needs to be made to the covenant. But that's good. We're seeing it.
But it also shows them like this is not This is not a short-term deal.
Exactly. This is not a 3-week city group, right? Like we're going to be doing this a while. And then again, that attendance is imperative. I think as the leader, you can speak into that a little bit and say, we talked about this last week on the podcast, right? But like, you need to be here. Like it's hard to learn something new if you're never there.
Yeah.
Right. I think about college and sleeping in and missing classes, and then, hey, the test comes around and, oh, wow, I don't remember any of this. Right. So that's kind of the same thing there. Like you got to be there to learn it.
I like how you put a priority and a rhythm in my schedule.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just noting that it's not a one-off, like come as you go. Like this is something that you are committing to just make what's another word for rhythm? I don't know.
Well, I mean, a priority, right? So like you're saying, we don't change nights that we meet. We typically say, this is going to be the night we're meeting, and so you should have that on your calendar. And obviously there will be the occasional overlay of something comes up, but you've got that event on your calendar.
Habit.
A habit.
Habit's the word.
There you go.
I think I was thinking of. Because like I'm thinking at home, you have a habit of working out.
Yes.
Or, and then it becomes your flow.
Right.
Like this is just what I do.
This is what I do.
Tuesday.
That's right. Every Sunday night, I've got D group at the house.
Yeah.
Yep. Boom.
All right, number 3.
Yeah. I acknowledge that the Bible will be our primary source of truth. Yes, it will be. I commit to come prepared to learn what it means, and that I will bring a notebook, pen and pencil, and a Bible. Again, just some readiness, right? Yeah. You're ready to be there. You're expecting to learn something that's worthy of writing down.
And the Bible's pretty important.
And exactly. Yeah, I love how I talked about the notebook and the pen, but not the Bible. The Bible is very important, and that's where we're going to pull everything from. So.
Number 4, I acknowledge that this D group is the start of my journey on the disciple-making pathway. I commit to doing my best to, I commit to doing my best to reproducing my life in this disciple-making pathway when I'm deployed.
Yeah, so we're giving them a heads up of the expectation, right? Yeah. Like, hey, we want you to do this. And again, this could be another place that could be edited. Like I need to pull my pen out and write some notes here, but now what we're asking of people, I'll take you. She just threw me a pin. I think right now, like we're expecting, yes, for you to lead another discipling group. That'd be awesome. Like that's a big win. But also if you want to lead a city group, we'd love our deployed people to lead a city group, or lead a team, like be a team leader, or like a service team, or plan a neighborhood, right? Like those are other options that we've added since we first wrote up this covenant. But ideally, we want you to have a plan out of discipleship, not just, hey, I learned discipleship. That's cool. I'm going to go over here and sit.
Was it learn it and lose it?
Yeah. Learn it and lose it. Yeah.
I think I just made that up, honestly.
It's good. I'm going to write it down.
You should, with the pen that I threw at you.
Well, I have one in my pocket.
You had a pen all along?
Yeah.
Okay, so the next section, it's titled prerequisites for your deployment to disciple others.
Yes, you're correct. And then in that, there are some subheadings. So there is discover, disciple, and deploy. And guess what, Katie? That's one of the ways that we get D3. Woo! Yep, pretty crazy, right? So the discover phase, the discipling phase, and then the deployment. And so, yeah.
So in the discover phase, it's basically, it's talking about what a deployed disciple looks or does.
Yes.
So the first one is, they confess Jesus as Lord. They are baptized.
Yes.
The second one is they have an understanding of our D3 pathway, and they are able to lead someone through it.
Yes.
And the third one is that they will show a faithful rhythm of abiding in God's word and in prayer.
Yeah.
And they can show a clear understanding of Eat the Word or 7-question study tool.
Yeah.
Which is one of our tools.
Yeah. And so the funny thing, or I don't know if it's funny, the fun thing, I guess, is like this is not where most of your people are when they come in the group. Like this is where they're going to be.
Yeah.
Right. So it gives them a picture to look forward to of saying, okay, again, these are the expectations. Like this is where we hope you will be as a deployed disciple. So somebody may not be baptized. We've even had folks who have stepped into discipleship who have not been a believer, right? So there's like, hey, this is where we hope that you will be. These are the steps you're going to take as you walk through discipleship.
Yeah.
And then even this, faithful rhythm of spending time in God's word. Like, most of the people sitting around your table on that first week when you're probably walking through this are more than likely not sitting in God's word on a regular basis. And so it gives you an opportunity just to say, like, this is where we're headed. This is where we're going.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And again, like we've said, like this helps you for later discussions.
Yes.
So if they're not baptized,
right.
Okay, well, you knew this was coming, honestly, because this is what we expect of our disciples.
Yeah. And for you as a leader, this is what you get to point them towards, right? That's exciting.
That's nice. All right. So that was the discover portion.
Yep.
Disciple portion. What's under that?
Yeah. So this is more kind of, if you think on our D3 pathway, this is more the transformation and the competency kind of put together, right? So we're discipling you as we've been discipled, and we're coaching you in these tools and different things like that. And so, so that first one is a deployed disciple will show evidence of transformation in their life based on hearing and obeying what the Lord's asking them to do. The learning circle summarized in one sentence, right? Like you're beginning to step into what the Lord's asking you to do. And I think we've said multiple times, the transformation is going to look different for every person. It's maybe small for some, it may be huge for others, but we hope that you're going to experience some transformation, right? Like when you get done with discipleship, hopefully there is something different about you that you look more like Jesus. So,
I mean, if you're reading your Bible and seeking, what God is saying to you, surely some change will come from it.
There's some steps. Yep, exactly.
All right. And then, so we're on to the last page.
Yep.
And deploy.
Yeah. So from the deployment standpoint, basically it's this idea that you're going to be sent out, right? Like that's the final goal. That's what we hope to accomplish. And then from there that they would multiply their life. And as we talked about, what are those steps you're going to take? And again, as we get to the deployment party, so this is the beginning with the covenant. Mm-hmm. The deployment party is the end, ultimately. And so the questions that we ask at the deployment party are really based on this covenant. Like we're going back to this and just asking, did you grow in these areas? Yeah. Did you see that happen? Did these things play out the way? I mean, they more than likely didn't play out in the way you thought they would. Like, what did all that look like? And then from there is the place where, they get to sign it. But there's also a place for the leader to sign it. And again, because this covenant is back and forth, it's both of us saying we're going to do this.
Yeah.
So imagine if like a leader got a group together. I'm not saying this has ever happened, but if a leader got a group together and then the leader never showed up, like, wouldn't that be crazy?
Yeah.
Probably wouldn't last very long.
Yeah, there would be no group.
Anyway, that's a very extreme example. So anyway, but the leader's saying, I commit these things to you, and the person that's signing it saying, I'm committing these things to you. Let's go.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So another fun thing on the bottom of this is that, there's personal info there as well. So the leader is going to keep these covenants. So you as the leader, you're going to collect all the covenants once everybody signs them. And then there's a place for the spouse's name, your address, and then birthdays, which is good to know.
Yeah, yeah.
And then favorite candy.
I love celebrating all
and
the
favorite food and all that fun stuff. And it's fun as a leader just to kind of surprise your folks with that occasionally.
I like how you said that you as a leader keep them.
Yeah.
So they can't burn them.
Wow.
I don't remember you saying that at all.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So, what covenant? What are you talking about? We didn't do that. You're crazy. So, yeah. But it's a great tool to have on the front end, again, to kind of filter out and kind of work through, like, who's doing this thing and who's committed.
Yeah.
No.
I'm trying to think of some stumping questions, but I'm just not.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not there today.
Questions.
I don't know right now. So you'll have to wait till next week, I guess.
We had a lot going on this morning. So.
All right.
Yeah. Let's wrap it.
Yeah. Okay.
This will be a lot shorter than our hour-long Q&A.
Well, we hope that you have learned something on this podcast about the covenant.
Yes.
And if you have any questions, you can email them to d3info@newcitychurch.com.
Exactly right.
You can subscribe to our YouTube page.
You can.
Click the, it's not a flag.
The
bell.
bell. The bell
Hey,
gives you the
there.
notifications when you, check it out.
And if you forget this all the time. I don't know why. If you are a D3 leader, we also have a Facebook page that you can join.
We do. He
just doesn't like that as much.
Yeah. D3 Discipled Leaders or Discipling Leaders is what it's
He
called.
doesn't even know the name.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we will see you next time on the D3 Discipleship Pathway.
Yep. Sounds good. See you.
Oh, not the pathway. Not the pathway. We'll see you on the D3 Discipleship podcast.
It's the podcast. It is. It's true. We'll see you.
Oh, gosh.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope that today's information was helpful and useful for your discipling journey. We would like to encourage you to subscribe, review, and share on social media. If you would like more information, check out d3pathway.com.